1 year had passed since Park So-min's hologram appeared in the council chamber. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Trade routes that had carried goods for centuries now sat empty. Spaceports that once bustled with activity were quiet and dark. Worlds that had thrived on galactic commerce struggled to feed their populations. Ambassador Krell Tar stood in the council station's observation deck, watching supply ships arrive with food from the few agricultural worlds still loyal to the council. There used to be hundreds of ships arriving daily. Now they were lucky to see a dozen per week. The hegemony has lost another system, reported Captain Urelka, entering the observation area. Her blue skin had grown pale over the past months. The Rixtal colonies declared independence this morning. They say they want to join the human alliance. Kreltar was not surprised. The Rixtal had been complaining about hegemony taxes for decades. With the human alliance offering better trade deals and protection, loyalty to the old system made little sense. How many does that make? He asked. 47 systems have left council space in the past year, Urelka replied. Most join the alliance immediately. A few declare independence and stay neutral. The numbers were devastating. The council territory had shrunk to less than a third of its original size. Worse, the systems that remained were mostly the core worlds, heavily populated but dependent on imports for survival. An alarm sounded through the station. All beings hurried to the main chamber as an emergency assembly was called. Director Vexhan looked older than Kreltar had ever seen him. His 4 arms moved slowly as he activated the main display screen. Long-range sensors have detected a large fleet approaching our space, Vexhan announced. The ships match human alliance designs. The screen showed dozens of vessels moving in perfect formation. The ships were the beautiful, organic-looking craft they had seen in Park So-min's transmission. But these were much larger, and there were many more of them. Are they attacking? Asked Ambassador Thakra. Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated itself. A human face appeared on the main screen. He was young with kind eyes, but he wore the uniform of a military officer. This is Captain Oh Hyun-soo of the Alliance vessel New Horizon, the man said. I am requesting permission to address the Galactic Council. Director Vexhan hesitated. Allowing enemy ships into council space would show weakness, but refusing might provoke the attack they all feared. Permission granted, Vexhan said finally, but your fleet will maintain safe distance from our stations. Understood, Captain O replied. We come in peace. An hour later, the New Horizon floated outside the council station. The ship was even more impressive up close. Its living hull pulsed with soft light, and smaller craft moved around it like fish swimming near a whale. But what shocked the council most was the variety of ships in the escort fleet. There were vessels they had never seen before, strange, beautiful craft that seemed to be made of crystal and light. Others looked like they were grown from coral or carved from single pieces of stone. Each design was unique, representing species the council had never encountered. Captain Oh Hyun-soo arrived at the station with a small group of companions. 2 were human, but the others were clearly from unknown species. One being looked like. It was made of flowing water held in a transparent shell. Another resembled a tree that had learned to walk upright. Thank you for receiving us, Captain O said as he entered the council chamber. I bring greetings from the Alliance of Free Worlds. We know who you represent, said Vexhan coldly. What do you want? Captain O gestured to his companions. These are ambassadors from the Outer Rim territories. Species your council never contacted because you considered them too primitive or too distant to matter. The water being stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice sounded like waves on a beach. I am flowing through stars of the tidal collective. Our people have watched your council for many centuries. We chose not to make contact because we did not like what we saw. The tree being rustled its leaves as it spoke. I am root singer of the Grove Worlds. We heard stories of how your council treats those who are different. We preferred to remain hidden. Krell-Tar felt embarrassment burn through his body. How many species had avoided the council because of their reputation? How much knowledge and friendship had been lost? Captain O activated a small device. A holographic display filled the center of the chamber, showing a map of the galaxy that was far more detailed than anything the council possessed. Thousands of worlds were marked with symbols representing different species. This is the true galaxy, he said. Not the small portion your council claimed to control, but the whole thing. There are over 300 sentient species in our local galaxy alone. Most of them have been hiding from you. The revelation was staggering. The council had believed they represented most of galactic civilization. In reality, they had only controlled a tiny fraction of intelligent life. Your predecessors built this council on a foundation of lies, Captain O continued. They convinced member species that they were the most advanced, the most numerous, the natural leaders of the galaxy. But ancient records tell a different story. The hologram changed to show historical data. Documents written in languages Krell-Tar did not recognize scrolled across the display. The original Galactic Council was not meant to rule, O explained. It was supposed to be a meeting place where all species could share knowledge and settle disputes peacefully. But the oldest and most powerful members gradually changed it into a tool of control. The tree being, Root Singer, rustled again. They destroyed records of species who disagreed with them. They spread lies about the dangers of contacting primitive worlds. They convinced everyone that hierarchy was natural and necessary. That is ancient history, protested Vexhan. Whatever the council was originally meant to be, it has maintained peace and order for thousands of years. Captain O's kind expression hardened. Peace for whom? Order at what cost? The hologram showed images that made several council members look away. Mining operations where local species worked in dangerous conditions. Research facilities where primitive beings were experimented on without consent. Worlds stripped of resources while their inhabitants starved. Every one of these atrocities was legal under council law, O said, approved by votes from species who benefited from the suffering of others. Flowing through stars spoke again, its voice like distant thunder. This is why we avoided contact. This is why we stayed hidden. We knew that joining your council meant accepting these horrors as normal. The accusations hung in the air like poison. Krell-Tar wanted to argue, to defend the system he had served for decades. But the evidence was overwhelming. How many times had he voted to approve mining operations without asking about the local population? How many research projects had he supported without questioning their methods? Captain O deactivated the hologram. The Alliance of Free Worlds offers a different path. True democracy, where every species has an equal voice. Protection for all sentient beings, regardless of their technology level. Cooperation instead of exploitation. What if we refuse? Asked Captain Irelka. Then you refuse, O replied simply. We will not force you to change, but neither will we support the old system. You are isolated now, cut off from most of the galaxy. You can continue as you are, or you can choose to be better. He stood to leave, then paused at the chamber door. The offer remains open. When you are ready to join a galaxy based on equality and justice, we will welcome you. After the humans left, the council chamber remained silent for a long time. Outside the windows, the New Horizon and its escort fleet began moving away. They did not threaten or attack. They simply left, carrying with them the knowledge that the galaxy had moved beyond the council's reach. The old order was dying, and everyone knew it. The only question was whether they would choose to be part of what came next. 5 years had passed since Captain Oh Hyun-soo delivered his ultimatum to the Galactic Council. The galaxy now existed as 2 separate civilizations, each following a different path into the future. Director General Kwon Seo-jun walked through the Alliance Congress building on New Terra, a world that had been engineered by 12 different species working together. The architecture was unlike anything built before. Living walls made from Keplerian biotechnology filtered the air and provided soft light. Crystalline structures created by former Zilithian refugees processed data and communication. Flowing water channels designed by the Keth Ali carried both transportation and messages throughout the complex. The main Congress chamber could hold representatives from over 200 species. Unlike the old Council's fixed seats arranged by power level, this chamber adjusted itself daily. Atmospheric zones shifted to accommodate gas-breathing species. Gravity fields changed for beings from different worlds. Water sections rose and fell for aquatic delegates. The room itself was alive, responding to the needs of those who used it. Kwon Seo-jun took his place at the central podium, not as a ruler but as a coordinator chosen by vote every 3 years. Around him, beings from across the galaxy prepared for the day's session. A tidal collective representative floated in a tank of special water. Rootsinger's people had grown a small grove in one corner, where they could photosynthesize during long meetings. Tiny furry beings from the far reach sat on elevated platforms so they could see over larger species. The session begins, Kwon announced in the common language that had evolved from mixing human words with concepts from dozens of other species. Today we discuss the Andromeda Expedition proposal. Captain Nam Young-ho stood to address the Congress. His uniform bore patches from 20 different worlds, showing the diverse crew he commanded. Behind him, a holographic display showed images from long-range telescopes pointed at the nearest galaxy. We have received radio signals from Andromeda that show clear signs of intelligent origin, Nam reported. The signals use mathematical patterns that cannot be natural. Someone is trying to communicate across the space between galaxies. The Congress erupted in excited discussions. Contact with intelligence from another galaxy had been a dream for centuries. Now it seemed possible. What do we know about these signals? Asked Flowing Through Stars, the Tidal Collective's senior ambassador. Very little, Nam admitted. The signals are weak and take millions of years to reach us, but they repeat in patterns that suggest a deliberate attempt to attract attention. Rootsinger's leaves rustled as she spoke. The Grove worlds volunteer our deep space navigation experience. Our people have mapped gravitational currents that could make the journey faster. A small, mouse-like being called Squeak of Joy jumped up on his platform. The tiny folk offer our miniaturization technology. We can make ships smaller and lighter for long journeys. This was how the Alliance worked. When faced with challenges, species offered their unique abilities freely. No one demanded payment or special treatment. Everyone contributed what they could because the success of the Alliance meant success for all. Dr. Kim Yoon-soo, the Alliance's chief scientist, presented the technical details. Using combined technologies from our member species, we can build a ship capable of reaching Andromeda. In approximately 50 years, the vessel would carry representatives from many worlds. The discussion continued for hours. Unlike the old council, where powerful species made decisions and others followed, every voice was heard. The crystalline collective worried about the energy requirements. The Grove worlds suggested using their bio-neural computers for navigation. The tiny folk wondered if the ship should be one large vessel or many small ones traveling together. By the end of the day, they had reached consensus. The Andromeda expedition would proceed, with volunteers from any species that wished to participate. As the session ended, Kwon Seo-jun received a priority message on his personal communicator. It was from an unexpected source, the old Galactic Council territory. Meanwhile, in what remained of Council space, former Director Vexhan stood alone in the great chamber that had once held hundreds of representatives. Now only a dozen beings attended the meetings. The hegemony controlled 3 systems: The Zilithians had two. A few other species clung to the old ways, but their territory continued to shrink. The economic collapse had been total. Without trade. From Alliance worlds, basic goods were scarce. Food shipments arrived sporadically. Medical supplies ran low. Many Council worlds had imposed strict rationing just to survive. But the worst part was the silence. For thousands of years, the Council Chamber had been the center of galactic politics. Now it felt like a tomb. The communications that did arrive were usually bad news. Another system declaring independence, another species asking to join the Alliance. Ambassador Kreltar entered the chamber carrying a small data crystal. He looked tired and much older than his years. "This came through the old diplomatic channels," he said. "It is addressed to the Council leadership." Vexahan accepted the crystal with trembling hands. When he activated it, a hologram appeared showing a young human woman in a simple Alliance uniform. She stood in what looked like a garden, where various alien plants grew together in harmony. "My name is Ko Yun-Su, Junior Diplomat of the Alliance of Free Worlds," she said. "I have a message for the Galactic Council." The woman's voice was kind, but serious. "We know that life in Council territory has become difficult. We know that many of your people are suffering. This was never our intention." She paused and looked directly at the camera. "The Alliance extends an open invitation to all former Council species. Join us, and we will share our technology, our trade networks, and our prosperity. All we ask in return is that you accept the principles of equality and justice for all sentient beings." The hologram showed images of former Council species thriving in Alliance territory. Zilithian refugees worked alongside humans to build crystal computer hybrids. Hegemony defectors commanded Alliance ships with mixed crews. Even Nefiri, who had abandoned their gas supremacist beliefs, found new homes in the Alliance. "There are no second-class citizens in the Alliance," Ko Yun-Su continued. "No superior or inferior species. No exploitation of the weak by the strong. We judge beings by their actions, not their technology level or their age as a civilization." The message concluded with an offer that made Vexahan's hearts race. A full pardon for all past actions, complete integration into Alliance society, and equal representation in our Congress from the day you join. After the hologram ended, the chamber fell silent. Kreltar was the first to speak. "They are offering us everything we lost, and more. At the cost of admitting we were wrong," Vexahan replied bitterly. "Were we wrong?" asked Kreltar quietly. "Look around us. Look at what we have become. Is this better than what they offer?" Through the chamber's great windows, they could see supply ships struggling to dock with damaged equipment. The station itself was falling apart without Alliance technology to maintain it. Most of the crew had already requested transfers to Alliance territory. That night, Vexahan walked to the human delegation's old seats. Someone had placed Ko Yun-Su's data crystal on the polished table. A small sign next to it read, "The door remains open. When you are ready to be better, we will be waiting." For the first time in years, Vexahan allowed himself to imagine a different future. A future where his people were not rulers over others, but partners with them. A future where strength came from cooperation instead of domination. The next morning, he called for a final vote of the Galactic Council. The question was simple. Should they dissolve the Council and ask to join the Alliance of Free Worlds? The vote was unanimous. As the last council session ended and the chamber lights dimmed for the final time, Vexahan realized something important. They had not been defeated by the humans. They had been offered a chance to become something better than they ever imagined possible. The galaxy had moved forward without them, but it was not too late to catch up. The massive council chamber filled with worried voices from dozens of different alien species. Ambassador Taemin Kim's chair sat empty once again. It had been empty for 47 meetings now. The humans had simply stopped coming. Council leader. Vextar struck his crystal hammer against the metal desk. The sound echoed through the huge room. All the alien delegates turned to look at him. His 4 eyes showed deep concern as he looked at the empty human seat. "We need to talk about the human problem," Vexatar said. His voice carried through the translation devices that let all the different species understand each other. "They have been silent for 3 years now. No messages, no trade ships, no diplomats, nothing." The reptilian Skarn delegate hissed loudly. Her scales turned a dark red color, which meant she was angry or scared. "This is not normal behavior. Humans always talked too much before. Now they say nothing at all." Behind her, the luminary representative flickered like a dying light bulb. The energy beings communicated through light patterns, and right now their patterns showed confusion and worry. They had worked closely with humans on many science projects. The sudden silence made no sense to them. Dr. Kyung-Ho Park had been the last human to attend any galactic meeting. That was 3 years and 2 months ago. He had come to share new medical technology that could save millions of lives. But during that meeting, the council had voted on something that changed everything. The vote was about human expansion limits. Many species thought humans were too unpredictable. They said humans caused too much change too quickly. They wanted to put strict rules on where humans could go and what they could do. Dr. Park had stood up slowly during that meeting. His face had been calm, but his eyes showed disappointment. "My people don't like being told they are too dangerous to exist," he had said. "We came here to help. We shared our technology. We solved your problems, and you repay us by calling us a threat." He had gathered his papers and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back to the council. "We understand your decision. We will respect it. But we need some time to think about our place in this galaxy." That was the last time anyone had seen a human at any official galactic meeting. 3 days later, all human ships had returned to their home systems. Trade routes that humans controlled simply shut down. Research stations went dark. Communication channels stopped working. It was like humans had just vanished from galactic society. At first, many council members felt relieved. The hegemony of granite worlds had complained for years about human unpredictability. Finally, some peace and order, their delegate had said. But peace and order came with a terrible price. The first problems appeared in the Outer Rim territories. Human companies had been running the food distribution networks for 12 star systems. When the humans left, those systems broke down. Millions of aliens faced starvation on worlds that could not grow their own food. Emergency supply ships from other species tried to help, but they did not understand the complex delivery systems humans had built. Food spoiled in space. Ships got lost. Some colonies received too much food while others got nothing at all. The Andorian trade wars started again after 50 years of peace. Humans had been the neutral mediators who kept the two sides from fighting. Without human peacekeepers, old anger and hate returned. Battles broke out along the trade routes. Innocent traders died in the crossfire. Zephyra of the Helix Nebula Collective stood up in the council chamber. Her 4 arms moved in distress patterns that her species used to show extreme worry. "We are losing people every day," she said. "Our medical research depends on human biotechnology. Without their help, the bone plague has returned to 7 of our worlds." The bone plague was a terrible disease that turned living bone into dust. Human doctors had found a cure 5 years ago. But the cure needed constant updates as the plague mutated. Without human researchers, the medicine stopped working. Other species tried to continue the research, but they could not match human creativity. Each species was very good at one type of science. Humans were the only ones who could combine different types of knowledge to solve complex problems. Vextar looked around the chamber at all the worried faces. "What about the surveillance drones we sent to human space? Have they reported anything useful? General Korvac of the War Fleet pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the council table. They showed human star systems. But something was very different about them. Massive structures surrounded every human world. They looked like huge rings made of metal and energy. The rings were connected by streams of bright light that bent and twisted through space in ways that should not be possible. These structures appeared over the last 2 years, General Korvac explained. We have never seen technology like this before. Our scientists cannot understand how it works. The images showed construction on a scale that amazed even the oldest spacefaring species. Entire moons had been converted into industrial centers. Asteroid belts had been reorganized into perfect geometric patterns. And around Earth itself, a ring of structures stretched from one side of the solar system to the other. "What are they building?" asked the Skarn delegate. "We don't know," General Korvac admitted. "Every time we send ships to investigate human, vessels appear and escort our scouts away. They are polite but firm. They won't let us get close enough to study the structures." The really disturbing part was how easily humans pushed away the scout ships. Council military technology was supposed to be the best in the galaxy, but human ships moved in ways that seemed to ignore basic physics. They appeared instantly, regardless of where they came from. They used weapons that simply made other ships stop working without causing any damage. "They are more advanced than us now," General Korvac said quietly. "Whatever they built in the last 3 years, it has made them technologically superior to the entire Galactic Council." An uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. Many delegates had assumed humans would come crawling back within a few months. They thought humans needed galactic society more than galactic society needed humans. They were wrong. Dr. Hyun-Soo Kang, a human scientist who had been studying on the Council homeworld when the withdrawal began, finally spoke up. She had remained, silent during all the previous meetings, watching and listening as the galaxy fell apart. "You want to know why we really left?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, but everyone could hear her clearly. "It wasn't because you hurt our feelings. It wasn't because we were angry about the expansion limits." She stood up and looked around the chamber. "We left because you never understood what you were asking for. You wanted us to be more like you, predictable, specialized, safe." Dr. Kang activated her own holographic display. It showed data about galactic stability over the past 1,000 years. "You achieved perfect equilibrium before humans arrived. No wars, no conflicts, no changes. You also had no solutions when real problems arose." The data was shocking. In the 1,000 years before human contact, 14 entire species had gone extinct from preventable disasters. Plagues, environmental collapse, resource conflicts, all problems that could have been solved if someone had been willing to try new approaches. "You called us chaotic," Dr. Kang continued. "But chaos and creativity are connected. You cannot have innovation without uncertainty. You cannot have growth without risk. We were not making your galaxy dangerous. We were making it alive." Suddenly, emergency alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed as automated systems announced a major crisis. The Void Plague, a disease that had been contained for decades, had somehow mutated and escaped quarantine, and it was spreading fast. Vextar's 4 eyes went wide with terror as he realized the truth. They needed humans back, not as junior partners or controlled allies, but as equals who could help solve problems that no other species could handle. But after 3 years of silence, would the humans even listen to their desperate calls for help? Fleet Admiral Bo-Ram Lee stood in the hidden command center deep inside Luna Station. The moon base had been secret for over 2 years now. Dozens of holographic screens floated around her, each one showing different parts of the galaxy that were falling apart. She watched the data streams with calm eyes. The Andorian trade wars were getting worse every day. Ships burned in space while crews died for old grudges that should have stayed buried. The Outer Rim agricultural colonies were failing without human terraforming technology. 17 worlds now faced the return of diseases that human medicine had cured years ago. "Ma'am, the latest reports from the Helix Nebula," said Commander Jae-woo Park, handing her a data tablet. "The bone plague has spread to 3 more worlds. Their medical teams cannot stop it." Admiral Lee nodded slowly. She had expected this. When humans left galactic society, they had taken more than just their ships and diplomats. They had taken their knowledge, their problem-solving methods, and their ability to see connections that other species missed. On Earth, Prime Minister Hae-jin Cho was meeting with the Global Defense Council. The room was smaller than the Galactic Council chamber, but the decisions made here affected billions of lives across the galaxy. "The surveillance reports are clear," Prime Minister Cho said, looking at the assembled human leaders. "The galaxy is experiencing system-wide failure, trade networks are collapsing, medical crises are spreading, wars that we spent decades ending have started again." General Dong-sik Kim pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas of conflict. Yellow zones showed economic collapse. Orange zones indicated medical emergencies. More than half the galaxy was covered in warning colors. "They called us the Chaos Species," Prime Minister Cho continued. Her voice was cold and controlled, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. "They said we were too unpredictable and too dangerous. They wanted to limit our expansion to protect the galaxy from our nature." She stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over the rebuilt Seoul skyline. In the distance, massive construction projects reached toward the stars. "They voted to contain us like we were some kind of virus. Well, now they can see what their precious stability looks like without us." The human withdrawal had not been a sudden emotional decision. It had been planned carefully over many months. Dr. Sun-Woo Nam, head of the Xenobiology Research Division, had discovered something important about human nature that the Galactic Council refused to understand. "Every other species in the galaxy evolved to be specialists," Dr. Nam explained to the Council. "The Altarians became masters of quantum physics but cannot understand biology. The Skarn perfected chemistry but fail at engineering. The Luminari control energy but struggle with physical matter." He activated a complex display showing evolutionary patterns across different species. "Humans are different. We remained generalists. We can work with any type of science, any type of problem, any type of thinking. This makes us seem chaotic to specialists, but it also makes us essential for solving complex problems." The data was clear. Human brains had evolved to handle multiple variables at the same time. Other species could think very deeply about one subject, but humans could think broadly about many subjects and find connections between them. This ability made humans perfect mediators, researchers, and crisis managers. When different alien species could not understand each other, humans could bridge the gap. When problems required knowledge from multiple fields, humans could combine the information in new ways. "The Galactic Council wanted us to pick a specialty and stick to it," Dr. Nam said. "But that would mean giving up the very thing that makes us useful to them. They wanted the benefits of human problem-solving without accepting human nature. Now, the galaxy was paying the price for that decision. Without human mediators, species that had worked together for decades could no longer communicate effectively. The Mechanical Nexus Collective could not understand the emotional needs of the plant-based Verdani. The hive-minded swarm struggled to work with individualistic species. Ancient prejudices were returning as cooperation broke down. The granite-based species looked down on the gas-based species. Energy beings felt superior to physical beings. Trade agreements that had lasted for centuries were falling apart over misunderstandings that humans would have solved in minutes. Admiral Lee received another urgent report from her intelligence officers. "Ma'am, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from human space. Something big is happening around the Sol system." She looked at the sensor readings with interest. The energy patterns were unlike anything in the galactic database. Whatever humans were building, it was beyond current scientific understanding. Several Galactic Council species had tried to send spy ships to investigate. All of them had been politely but firmly turned away by human patrol vessels. The humans were not hostile, but they made it clear that visitors were not welcome. "What did the spy ships report about human technology?" Admiral Lee asked. "That's the concerning part, ma'am," Commander Park replied. "Human ships are now using technology that our allies cannot identify. They appear instantly at any location, regardless of distance. They can disable other ships without causing damage, and their energy readings suggest power sources far beyond anything we have seen before." Admiral Lee was not surprised. For 3 years, humanity had focused all their scientific research and industrial capacity on a single massive project. Instead of spreading their efforts across dozens of different galactic initiatives, they had concentrated everything on one goal. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was discovering just how much they had depended on human contributions. Food distribution networks failed because humans had designed the complex logistics systems. Medical research stalled because human scientists had been the ones connecting discoveries from different species. Terraforming projects collapsed because humans had been the experts at adapting to new environments. Even the Galactic Council's meeting procedures were breaking down. Humans had served as translators not just for language, but for different ways of thinking. Without human facilitators, debates became confused arguments where species talked past each other without understanding. Prime Minister Cho received daily reports about the galactic crisis. Each day brought news of more suffering, more conflicts, more systems failing, but she also received other reports that the Galactic Council did not know about. "The secret intervention teams are ready for deployment," reported Colonel Min Jung Song. "Medical teams standing by for plague-affected worlds, peacekeeping units prepared for war zones, engineering groups ready to repair critical infrastructure. And they can all deploy without being detected," Prime Minister Cho asked. "Yes, ma'am. The new technology allows us to appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly. We can help people directly without dealing with their governments or the Galactic Council." Prime Minister Cho nodded approvingly. "Good. Let the Council maintain their precious stability while their people suffer. We will take care of the beings who actually need help." This was the real human plan. They had not abandoned the galaxy out of spite or anger. They had withdrawn from the political systems that tried to control them, but they would continue to help the people who needed their assistance. Human medical teams would appear on plague-stricken worlds and disappear before authorities arrived. Food shipments would mysteriously appear on starving colonies. Wars would end suddenly when weapon systems on both sides mysteriously stopped working, forcing the fighters to negotiate instead. Let the Galactic Council debate and argue about stability and order, Admiral Lee said, watching the crisis reports continue to pour in. "We will focus on saving lives and solving problems. That is what humans do best." The galaxy would learn that there was a difference between controlling humans and working with them. And soon they would discover what humans had built while the galaxy burned around them. Captain Dong-hyun Kim guided his scout ship through the massive gateway that surrounded Earth. The ring structure was so large that his ship looked like a tiny insect flying through a giant metal flower. Energy streams connected the rings in patterns that seemed to bend space itself. "Control, this is Scout 7 requesting permission to dock at Luna Station," he spoke into his communication device. "Permission granted, Scout 7. Welcome home," came the reply from his sister, Commander Min Jung Kim, who was working in the Traffic Control Center. As his ship moved closer to the moon, Captain Kim could see the full scale of what humanity had built. The project was bigger than anything any species had ever attempted. Rings of metal and energy surrounded not just Earth, but every planet in the solar system. Mars had 3 rings. Jupiter had 7. Even tiny Mercury had its own gateway structure. But the most impressive sight was the web of energy that connected everything together. Streams of bright light jumped from planet to planet, creating a network that pulsed with power. Sometimes the light would bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at, as if space itself was being folded like paper. Professor In-Young Song was waiting for Captain Kim when he docked at Luna Station. She was the lead scientist on the project that had consumed all of humanity's attention for 3 years. Her hair was gray now from stress and long work hours, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Welcome to the Nexus Web," she said, leading him through corridors filled with humming machinery. "What you just flew through is not just faster than light travel, it is instantaneous transportation across any distance in the galaxy." Captain Kim stopped walking. "Instantaneous? That's impossible. Nothing can move faster than light." Professor Song smiled. "You are thinking about movement through space." The Nexus Web does not move things through space. It moves space itself. We fold the galaxy like a piece of cloth, bringing any 2 points together. They entered a huge chamber where dozens of scientists and engineers worked at control stations. Holographic displays showed the entire galaxy, with thin lines of light connecting human space to distant star systems. The lines pulsed with data and energy. "The technology came from our greatest strength," Professor Song explained. "Other species spend centuries perfecting single theories. Humans combine ideas from different fields to create something completely new. The Nexus Web used quantum mechanics from the Altarians, dimensional physics from the Luminari, biological neural networks from the Verdani, and crystalline energy storage from the Skarn. But only human scientists had been able to see how all these different technologies could work together. Each piece was already known," said Dr. Woo-Jin Park, the project's chief engineer. "But no single species could imagine combining them all. They think in straight lines. We think in circles and loops and spirals." The web had required the combined effort of every human in the galaxy. Mining operations stripped entire asteroids for rare materials. Factories on Mars worked without stopping for 3 years. Even children in schools worked on small parts of the massive calculations needed. "This is more than just transportation technology," Professor Song continued as they walked deeper into the station. "The web serves another purpose that the Galactic Council does not know about." She led Captain Kim to a restricted section where Admiral Bo Ram Lee was meeting with the newly appointed Director of Galactic Affairs, Ji-Hoon Lim. Maps covered the walls, showing every crisis zone in the galaxy. "We have been monitoring the Council's problems since we left," Director Lim explained. 47 wars have started again. 13 species face extinction from diseases and disasters. The galactic economy has shrunk by 1/3. Admiral Lee pointed to different locations on the map. "The Council thinks we abandoned the galaxy. They are wrong. We have been more active than ever, just not in ways they can see or control." Through the Nexus Web, humanity had been secretly helping people across the galaxy. Human medical teams could appear instantly on plague-stricken worlds, provide treatment, and vanish before local authorities knew they were there. Emergency food supplies materialized on starving colonies with no explanation of where they came from. "Yesterday we stopped a war between the Copper Alliance and the Silicon Federation," Admiral Lee reported. "Both sides were preparing for a massive battle when their weapons stopped working. All of them, at the exact same time." Captain Kim looked confused. "How did we disable weapons across multiple star systems?" "The web connects to everything," Professor Song answered. "Any technology that uses quantum effects, which includes most modern weapons and computers, can be influenced through quantum entanglement. We can reach across the galaxy and simply turn things off. But the human intervention went beyond just stopping violence. Teams of engineers appeared at failing infrastructure sites and repaired critical systems before disappearing again. Scientists left anonymous research data that helped other species solve problems they could not handle alone. Negotiators worked behind the scenes to end conflicts without anyone knowing humans were involved. The galaxy is suffering, but survival rates in crisis zones have actually improved since we left the council, Director Lim said with satisfaction. People are living longer and healthier lives even though their governments are failing. This was the real human strategy. They had withdrawn from galactic politics, but they continued to serve the people who needed help. Instead of asking for permission or recognition, they simply appeared where they were needed most. Captain Kim studied the operational reports flowing in from across the galaxy. The Council has no idea we are doing this? None at all, Admiral Lee confirmed. They see mysterious improvements in crisis situations, but they cannot trace the help back to us. As far as they know, we are hiding in our solar system, feeling sorry for ourselves. The reports were impressive. The bone plague had been stopped on 3 worlds by mysterious medical supplies that appeared overnight. A failing agricultural colony received new terraforming equipment that no one could explain. 2 species on the edge of war found their leaders, trapped together in a broken elevator until they worked out their differences. We are Shadow Guardians now, Admiral Lee explained. We help without taking credit. We save lives without seeking recognition. The Council can keep their political games. We focus on the people who actually matter. Dr. Yun-Soo Kang, the human scientist who had remained on the Council homeworld, sent regular intelligence reports through the web. Her messages described growing panic among galactic leaders as they realized how much they had lost. The Council is desperate, her latest message reported. They have tried to solve the medical crises using their own methods, but they fail every time. Species that specialized in one type of science cannot handle problems that need multiple approaches. Each species thinks their way is the only correct way, Professor Song observed. The Altarians want to solve everything with mathematics. The Skarn try to use chemistry for problems that need engineering solutions. The Luminari believe pure energy can fix anything. But humans think differently, Director Lim added. We use whatever works. If a problem needs biology and physics, and chemistry and engineering all working together, we find a way to make that happen. The Nexus Web itself was proof of this human ability. No other species could have imagined combining so many different technologies into one unified system. The web was part transportation network, part communication system, part weapon, and part tool for helping others. The Council wanted us to pick a specialty and stay in our lane, Admiral Lee said. They thought specialists were superior to generalists. Now they are learning what happens when specialists face problems that require general knowledge. Reports continued to flow in from across the galaxy. Each day brought new evidence that the galactic civilization was collapsing without human involvement. But each day also brought new evidence that human secret intervention was keeping people alive and communities functioning. The Council will eventually figure out that we are still active, Captain Kim observed. Probably, Director Lim agreed. But by then, we will have saved millions of lives and prevented dozens of wars. They can complain about our methods all they want. The results speak for themselves. Through the Nexus Web, humanity had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They were a civilization that could help anyone, anywhere, at any time, without asking for anything in return. They had turned their greatest supposed weakness into their greatest actual strength.